Title: Wife said she lent my camera to her ex for an event, but the GPS exposed him at a pawn shop instead. When you've been married for 7 years, you start believing you can read your spouse like a favorite book. Every sigh, every pause, every half-smile that hides something unspoken. That's what I thought about my wife, Mia. She was the spontaneous one, always diving into new hobbies. Photography was her latest obsession, and I supported it wholeheartedly. I even let her use my old DSLR, a gift from my late father, something I treasured more for its memories than its worth. Last month, she asked if she could borrow it for a few days. "Ethan," she said casually, "my ex Jordan needs a camera for his event this weekend. His broke last minute, and I thought I could help him out. You don't mind, do you?" I remember freezing mid-sip of my coffee. Her ex. She said it like it was no big deal. I looked up at her, waiting for a punchline that never came. "You lent my camera to your ex-boyfriend?" I asked slowly. Mia rolled her eyes. "He's organizing a charity event, Ethan. Don't be so dramatic. It's just for 2 days." I wanted to believe her. I really did. She'd never given me a reason to doubt her before, but something about the ease in her tone, the way she brushed it off, not at me. It wasn't jealousy. It was instinct, that quiet, sharp edge that whispers something's off. Still I nodded. Fine. 2 days. Those 2 days turned into 5. Then 7. Every time I asked, she had another excuse. "He's still using it for editing. He's busy. I'll get it back soon." Finally, I decided to stop asking. Not because I didn't care, but because I wanted the truth, not another story. My father had once installed a tiny GPS tracker inside the camera years ago, when he used it for his nature shoots. It was old but still functional. I'd forgotten all about it, until now. That night, while Mia was asleep, I opened the tracker app on my laptop. My stomach dropped as the blinking red dot appeared. Not at any event hall or photography studio, but at a small pawn shop across town. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. Pawn shop. 11:47 p.m. My camera, my father's camera, sitting behind a glass case somewhere between stolen jewelry and secondhand electronics. And that's when the realization hit me like a gut punch. It wasn't just the camera she'd lent out. It was my trust. The next morning, I didn't mention a word to Mia. I made her breakfast like always, asked about her day, and watched her scroll through her phone with that absent-minded smile she wore when she thought everything was fine. Inside, though, I was rehearsing every possible explanation she could give, and every lie I might hear. By noon, I drove across town to the pawn shop. It was an old, cramped place that smelled like dust and cigarette smoke. The man behind the counter looked up from a newspaper when I walked in. "Help you with something?" he asked. "Yeah," I said quietly, pulling up a photo of my camera on my phone. "You had this item brought in recently. Black Canon DSLR Model 6D. Can you check?" He squinted at the picture. "You the owner?" "Yes." He disappeared into the back room. A few minutes later, he came back holding my camera. My chest tightened. It still had the same scratch near the lens ring from when my dad dropped it during our last camping trip. It was mine without a doubt. I asked him who sold it. He pulled out a small receipt book and flipped to the latest entries. "Guy named Jordan Ellis. Came in 3 days ago. Said he needed quick cash." The name stung. My knuckles clenched around the counter. "How much did you give him for it?" $300. Told him it wasn't worth much. I handed over the ownership proof and got my camera back. But instead of feeling relief, I felt something darker, a heavy, choking sense of betrayal. Mia hadn't just lied. She'd let her ex pawn off something that carried my father's memory. And she hadn't even noticed. Or worse, she had. That evening, I placed the camera back in its usual spot on the shelf and waited. When Mia came home, she noticed immediately. "Oh, you got it back," she said too quickly. I nodded slowly. "Yeah. Funny thing, I didn't get it back from Jordan. I got it from a pawn shop." Her face drained of color. What do you mean?" I looked straight at her. "It had a tracker, Mia. I know exactly where it went. Jordan pawned it 3 days ago. Want to explain that?" For a moment, she just stood there, lips trembling, eyes flicking from the shelf to me like she was searching for a script to follow. Then the truth came spilling out, not in words of guilt, but in a flood of excuses that only made it worse. "It's not what you think," Mia said, her voice trembling but sharp around the edges. "Jordan was in a tough spot. He said he needed the money for rent, and I didn't realize he'd pawn it. I thought he was just borrowing it for the event." "Stop," I interrupted quietly. "You didn't realize? You lent him something that didn't belong to you. And you didn't think to check when he didn't return it for over a week." Her lip quivered. "I just didn't want to upset you." I let out a hollow laugh. "You didn't want to upset me? Mia, you didn't even tell me where it was. You blocked me from asking questions by pretending it was about trust. You lied, and now my father's camera was sitting in a pawn shop window." She started to cry, soft at first, then louder. The kind of tears meant to erase accountability. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I just wanted to help him. He said he'd pay me back, and I was going to tell you once he did. That was the part that broke me, once he did." She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she got caught. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I simply walked past her, took the camera from the shelf, and placed it on the table. "You see this?" I said. "This isn't just a camera, Mia. This is the last thing my father gave me before he died. He told me, 'Don't let this end up in the wrong hands.' And you did exactly that." She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "I'll make it right," she whispered desperately. "I'll call Jordan, I'll fix this." "You can't fix trust," I said flatly. "You can't repurchase what you sold away." She stared at me, eyes wide, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You're really ending it over a camera?" That was when I finally looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she'd never understood what she'd broken. "No," I said softly. "I'm ending it over what the camera showed me." She frowned, confused. "It showed me who you really are." I grabbed my jacket, left the house, and didn't look back. A week later, I sold that same camera online. Not because I didn't value it, but because I refused to let its weight anchor me to her memory. Sometimes, the things we lose are replaced with clarity. And clarity, as painful as it is worth more than any photograph.